Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Awaken the World, Awaken Sunday Live Christmas Edition. What is it about family? The good, the bad, the ugly. Today, Sunday, December 23rd, it is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are here on the Awaken the World YouTube channel, and if you don't know me, I know you. Now, for some reason, my browser is actually acting funny here. So I'm going to try and load the browser and see what happens. There we go. That's a little better. And then if Kelly will put a comment in, hopefully it'll pop up now. So we'll see what happens. Honey, would you put a comment in there, please? Sweetheart? Sweetie? Could you please put a comment in?
I just did.
Okay, another one, please. It didn't appear to show up. Sorry, she has her headphones on over there, so she's 10 feet away from me, but she can't hear me. So, in essence, we are going to talk about family today, and we're going to talk about what the big deal is with family and why this is always an issue, and why it seems like no matter what, it's that family relationship we can never get away from in some way. It's always sticking us in the craw in some way, right? Jennifer's here. Hello, Jennifer. Nice to see you. Yeah, when Kelly has the headphones on, she doesn't hear me at all. It's kind of cute, actually. So I almost have to yell to the 10 feet over. So this is all part of the whole surviving Christmas, and the reason we did this is, as it turns out, a whole bunch of people have a lot of troubles during Christmas time. Me in the past, I have had them too, and of course Kelly is still having troubles to this day. What is it about that family dynamic? And in order to start this, we're going to begin with an article that we saw on the Facebook group page, and I'm going to read that article, and this is the essence of the article, okay? This Christmas will be the third one I haven't spent in my own hometown, and this is from the author. It's a small town in southern Kentucky filled with more than its fair share of Donald Trump bumper stickers and Confederate flags. But before even Trump was elected president, it always made me feel claustrophobic. The end of this holiday season will also cap the second calendar year I've gone without speaking to my parents and, by extension, the rest of my family. My holidays are no longer spent at my grandparents' house with my parents, sister, uncle, and random cousins. My parents helping to put Trump in office was the final nail in the coffin of a relationship that had been too rocky for too long. And despite people's well-intended but unnecessary sympathy, life has never been happier for me. My parents are passionate conservatives and attempted to raise me as a Baptist. I knew early on that wasn't going to work for me. My parents complained about everything from interracial marriage and rap music to women going for summer jogs in shorts. My mother literally highlighted Bible passages she claimed proved Barack Obama was the Antichrist. When NFL draft pick Michael Sam kissed his boyfriend on live TV, I nearly cried. I grew up in a house full of sports fanatics, and this was a beautiful and groundbreaking moment. My parents only talked about how gross it was. Because of my family's beliefs, I spent most of my life hiding my politics, my interests, my dating life, and my friends from them. For decades, they didn't know the real me. Only the facade that I put on for them. My parents had no idea that when I left the house on a typical high school weekend night, I was probably spending time with my gay best friend. They didn't know I voted for Obama. Shocker, he didn't turn out to be the Antichrist after all. They didn't know I donated to Planned Parenthood. Almost everything I love or am proud of in my life would probably make them cringe. Holidays always seem to exacerbate the canyon that yawned between us, and for as long as I can remember, my anxiety has spiked during November and December, a chronic eye roller. I had to siphon every bit of self-containment I could to make it through. Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners and daily life, if I'm being honest, with my family. Because of my family's beliefs, I spent most of my life hiding my politics, my interests, and my friends. Almost everything that I love, almost everything that I am proud of, makes them cringe. Eventually, I came to realize our vastly different beliefs had little to do with politics. Our differences have to do with vastly opposing views of what every human being deserves, such as healthcare, LGBTQ rights, a world without Confederate flags. Trump being elected and my parents helping him with their votes was more than I could take. It was the wake-up call I needed, and it finally shook me free from the society-imposed guilt that kept me hanging on to my family ties for years. The day after the 2016 election, my mother and I had heated discussion on the phone, the first extensive one we've had about politics in years. She proudly declared her support for Trump. I hung up. I always knew my parents were wildly conservative, but in my hearts of hearts, I didn't think they would go this far. I let the anger linger in silence for a couple of weeks. I gathered my thoughts. My dad finally called, wondering why I was freezing them out. I was on my way to Kansas City at the time and had an uninterrupted 45 minutes while driving to deal with the situation. After that, I knew I would be done. I would be at peace. So I drove down Interstate 70, my phone to my ear, and finally let 23 years of differences bubble up into speech. I was the most open I've ever been with either of my parents. I told my father for the first time about how I'd been groped on a New York City street. How could he vote for a man who had admitted to doing the same thing to other women? I brought up our differences when it came to topics like race, religion, and women in leadership positions. It probably wasn't a complete shock to them. I've often slipped throughout the years and said liberal things. But I don't think my parents ever knew our differences were this severe or would signify the end of our relationship. In most arguments I engaged in, my temper came quickly. I got flustered, I cried when I frustrated, but I was the calmest I'd ever been during a confrontation. I never cried, I never yelled. I didn't have to. I knew it was over. It's strange, with romantic attachments, we've been taught to recognize the red flags and act appropriately or accordingly. But with our family relationships, we're often guilted into staying no matter how toxic the situation may be. It's strange, with romantic attachments, we're taught to recognize and remember our worth, and that being alone is better than being in a bad relationship. Get out of it if someone isn't willing to respect you or your beliefs. But with our family relationships, we are often guilted into staying no matter how toxic the situation. We're pressured into trying to make it work with people who are often viscerally at odds with everything we believe in. What's more, we're told that if we decide to leave or distance ourselves, it's immature. Or better yet, can you not just talk about it? In other words, can you just not talk about it? But what use is that? Why would I want a relationship that needs to be constantly policed to avoid fighting or the realization that we have nothing in common? Why would I want a relationship limited to surface-level conversations about work and sports and the weather in order to steer away from topics truly worth discussing that truly define who we are at the time? I know I can't change the way they think or feel. They're not changing my beliefs. How valuable is a relationship where you have to hide or lie who you really are? So, after years of dreading the holidays, I finally took control of my life and created my own version of home, of family. Last year, I crammed 15 of my friends into my tiny living room and hosted my first Friendsgiving in my own place. Some of my friends were gay. Some were black. One had parents who immigrated from Mexico. It was a hodgepodge of characters and identities, a mosaic that illustrated what already makes America great. and I knew that no one there would make racist or sexist comments while digging into the turkey. No one would claim Jay-Z was a devil worshiper. No one talked about how nice of a guy Ted Cruz seemed to be. I didn't have to feel anxious, and I didn't feel anxious. It was the first time on a holiday I felt truly at home. This year, I took a week before Thanksgiving and drove 8 hours back to the region where I grew up. Toggling between Kentucky, Louisville, and Lexington, and Indianapolis, Indiana, I crashed in my friend's studio apartments and spare rooms, drinking wine and revisiting old college haunts. At the end of the week, I turned south. I drove back to my hometown, rolled down the main bypass, and straight through the traffic light that I had turned left would have taken me to the house I grew up in. I wasn't there to see my parents. I wasn't there to sit silently on a couch surrounded by relatives I had nothing in common with but my genes. When people finally found out I've cut family ties from my life, they often apologize, but I'm not sorry and I'm not sad. My parents, unfortunately, brought me more stress and grief than anyone else. I drove there not to see my relatives, but to spend time with those who actually felt like my family. My best friend from high school and her husband hosted me for 2 days and made me an early Thanksgiving dinner. We sipped Kentucky bourbon and talked into the night. This was the kind of Thanksgiving I'd been missing all those years. No bitter fighting, no quiet resignation to just keep my head down and find a way to get through the meal. Avoiding Trump voters was the impetus for me to finally break away, but the journey was building my own happiness. Free of an arbitrary obligation to a family I not only had nothing in common with, but whom I actively disagreed with on fundamental issues that illustrate who we are as people. It's not a situation I would wish upon someone, of course, and there are times when I wish I had blood relatives to be close to. But the peace of mind and the happiness I've found these past couple of holiday seasons without my family, I would wish that joy on anyone. Ashley Scobie, a native Kentuckian, a University of Kentucky graduate, and a recovering sports writer, now a freelance writer in Missouri. What is this saying about family? What is it about that family dynamic? Is family indeed a microcosm of society? And you know what? It used to be. It used to be that what was going on in the family was reflected out in society. Good relationships inside the home equaled good relationships outside the home. Now, is it still that way? Or is the family microcosm being controlled by the society macrocosm? We all know the guilt. We all know as Ashley here faced the apologies of other people. Oh, you can't be with your family. You know, family is that nuclear relationship. When you think about it, in the family dynamic, what happens is we get so totally locked into roles. And Kelly and I were talking about this yesterday. You know, if you have two women standing together, they can talk, they can disagree, and they can work things out. But if they are two sisters, and one of those sisters is older than the other, oftentimes that sister feels she has a right to chastise or not agree with her sister's position and try to get her to change her mind. Brothers, mothers, fathers, these are roles we take on, and we feel that there are rights we hold over other members of our family because of that. I'm your father. You have to do what I tell you. I'm your mother, and you're going to do what I say. I'm your older brother, and you have to listen to me. Why does this create so much problem? I mean, I've often said to Kelly, well, if other people were treating you this way who were not your family, would you want to spend any time with them at all? And her answer was no. What is it about family then? There's first and foremost all of the programming that's been built in. And I'm not saying family is a bad thing. Family, in its lack of dysfunction, which is hard to find these days, okay? Like a fully functional family is a beautiful, wonderful thing. Quite frankly, that's what all of humanity needs. But there's a lot of dysfunction going in with the dynamic, and a lot of this comes around the roles and believing we are the role instead of that we are there to define the role for ourselves, our unique expression of the role. The role of father, the role of mother, the role of sister, the role of brother, aunt, uncle, cousin, sibling, partner. What is it that we are attached to that keeps these relationships problematic? I feel myself very fortunate. And not only did I have my dad die when I was very young, and then my mother committed suicide by the time I was 17 years old. Our family dynamic, the family members that were alive throughout the earlier years of my life, we had little contact with each other. And yet, when we did, I didn't see my aunt for 15 years. I knocked on my aunt's door one day after 15 years of no communication, and she opened the door, smiled at me, and said, "I was wondering when you'd showed up." And her new husband, my uncle, was in shock. She's like, what are you doing letting this guy in your door? 15 years? Are you sure that's even your whatever? She was my aunt, so I guess that makes me a nephew. We never had that sort of relationship. Our relationship was always everyone did their own thing and was on their own life path. And if we crossed paths or thought about it and got together, well, great. There was no programming. There was no have-tos. There was no guilt. There was no fear. What I remember of the family that I had while they were still alive is that we would talk about anything and we would argue over anything, but that never, ever, ever went beyond the fun of the argument. It never went into defining the person. Why all the trouble in the holidays? Why all the problem? This is going to come as a real slap to the face for a lot of people. But your ego, your problem. Not your family member's problem. You are making a choice to participate or not participate. You are making a choice in every way, in every day. Now I know. Kelly and I, again, were talking yesterday, and we were talking about peace, and about, we were talking about the peace stones and the necklace that I had made myself. And she says, well, what about when you have no choice, when you have to defend yourself? And I looked at her and I said, do you ever have to defend yourself? Could you not stand there and allow yourself to be killed? If you believed in nonviolence so completely, would you not stand there and allow yourself simply to be killed? Now, our Christmas dinners, our times with our family this holiday season may make us feel like it's more preferable to be shot, but you're making a choice. You don't have to participate. You don't have to wear a mask. Because their family does not accord them any more rights than you have as a sovereign being, but you must be willing to accord them their rights? Can you arrive at the Christmas table in your higher state of consciousness, in your higher state of awareness, and stay in that centered, peaceful space and allow them to be and enact and experience where they are at on their journey? They may judge you. They may ignore you. They may put you out, as they have done to my wife, Kelly. They may, through religious reasons, as is also the case with Kelly, you're going to hell. You're no longer a member of the fold because you've ceased to believe the way that we do. But you have a choice. You have an opportunity to either simply don't show up, or to show up as your own powerful presence, complete and whole in who you are, and realizing and staying aware that whatever level of consciousness that they are in, what a gift that has been. What a joyous Christmas gift to have a family so asleep, so backwards, so lost in their own minds, that you as a young person were able to wake up within this lifetime. Do we not owe a debt of gratitude to those early relationships which showed us what we did and did not want to be? Can we not sit at that table in our higher state of being and look upon those family members around us with love, even if it has to be in silence? What is the true spirit of Christmas to you? Is it the spirit of wanting to see things your way? Or is it the spirit for one day of taking that overview, of stepping back and watching the scrabbling, the confusion, perhaps the arguments or the fights, whatever it is that goes on around Christmas, the stress? Can you choose for yourself what Christmas means and radiate that in any situation? You know, as this authoress, Ashley, has said, society guilts us into this. Well, you should never do that to your mother. You should never do that to your father. You must always obey your family. Family first. But what if you're the one out of the entire family who, because of the way you think, because of where you are in your consciousness, because of your life path, because of your choices that you have made honestly and openly, you are not accepted? Is it you that doesn't understand family? The answer is no. It is all the other people who are sitting at that table that would call themselves family, but you need to understand, and trust me, 8 out of 9 people from a family sitting together and one being shunned, there is only one who may understand family. All the rest of the people sitting at that table, they may be related. They may be brother and sister, mother and father, uncles and aunts, but they don't understand family. What they understand is what I call the agreement club. As long as you're in agreement with me, I'm happy with you. You can sit at my table. But as soon as you don't agree with us, as soon as you don't agree with the family, you are no longer worthy of sitting at this table. This is not family. Ultimately, there's nothing you can do about them, and there's nothing you should do about them. Speak your truth, certainly, honestly, openly, without shouting, without crying, without explosions of anger and rage, if you can. And ask yourself, if it's you in your higher state of consciousness, if it's your ego that is creating a big part of the problem that you perceive at that family dinner or at that Christmas get-together. Ultimately, the choice is all about you. You are here for you. You stand at the center of creation at all times, and every interaction, every experience you have is all about your evolution, not the evolution of others. Now, that doesn't seem to sound right at first. I understand that. You think, well, wait a minute. We're all one. Yes, we are. And because we're all one, first and foremost, you pay attention to your evolution, because through your evolution, the whole is given the opportunity to wake to ever higher levels of consciousness. Can you be that one to sit at the whole of your family and offer that higher vibration, offer that higher state of being and openness? And if not, it's okay. Don't feel any guilt. Don't show up. Do for you the best for you. For some, that may mean going to a church for dinner on Sunday and participating in serving food to the homeless and the helpless. Perhaps spending Christmas with friends, or, as I have done in the past, spend Christmas by yourself and have that experience. Much love to you all. You know, I can't say that I have in recent experience, issues with family that I can really understand. I mean, they're all dead. It's actually pretty convenient. But the one thing I do understand is that the ones we care about, we tend to feel we have rights over them. And none of us has any right over another. Your family has no rights over you, and you have no rights over your family. You do have the right to choose for yourself. Choose who you want to be at that table. Choose to leave your opinions behind about the others at that family gathering, at that Christmas meal. Be you. It's the best give you can give anybody. You know, when we hide and we spend years hiding, what happens? Sooner or later, everything blows up and all of it comes out. And when it comes out, it does so much harm because years have gone by. Better to be open and honest as soon as possible. Better to be the authentic you at all times. You need not defend yourself. You only need to be yourself. Whoever that is in this moment is perfectly okay. Merry Christmas to you all. I wish you all a wonderful, peaceful Christmas, a Christmas of coming together with those who would bring that vibration of joy and love and peace that you wish in your life. All of the rest, send them your love. Send them your understanding. Meditate upon them and pray for their conscious awakening. Understand that you travel a road less traveled. There are people on the way, though. People walking with you at all times. They may not wear the labels of father and mother, brother and sister, aunt and uncle, or cousin. They may wear the label of friend, or acquaintance, or I don't know you. But always, always, we walk hand in hand. Again, Merry Christmas. Much love to you all. We'll see you tomorrow for our 'Twas the Night Before Christmas reading on Christmas Eve. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday afternoon. Take care.